Hello peeps, welcome back to Big Deck Player with me, Matt Sparks. On today's show, we are taking a look at another Druid deck. It is called the Legend Aggro Egg Druid, or as I like to call it, the Aggro Druid. Haha, see what I did there? And this was posted on Hearthstone by GeorgiousHELLAS, and it's pretty damn cool. So this is the deck. It's pretty good from what I've played so far. I had some quests to finish some games with Druid deck, and the Fandral deck that I covered a few weeks ago now, wasn't quite cutting it, and so I decided to use this one instead, and it did pretty well. It's really cheap, it's like 800 dust. It's a really cheap deck as well. You will need to have done the League of Explorers because of Sir Finley Mergleton, although it's not 100% necessary, but if you want to keep the deck as it is, then you'll need Sir Finley Mergleton and have done the League of Explorers solo adventure. So, let's start at the very top. We have 2 living roots, pretty much a staple nowadays of Druid decks because they're so versatile. Like, getting them turn 1 means you can put out 2 1/1 saplings, which makes it a little bit more tricky for your opponent to get rid of because there's 2 of them. Or later in the game, if you get them later, you can always use them to do 2 damage to something and kill it off. Also at 1 mana we have 2 Argent Squires. Argent Squires seem to be the go-to neutral card for most kind of decks nowadays. Leponome has had its attack reduced. Argent Squire seems to be the one that people go for. We have 2 Dragon Eggs, which is why it's called an Egg Druid. And then finally, also at 1 mana, we have Sir Finley Mergleton, who I mentioned earlier. So you can discover a new hero power. I would suggest that you go with either the Paladin deck, the Paladin hero power, the Shaman hero power, or the Hunter hero power, or maybe even the Mage hero power. Although, if you've got the option to go with the Mage hero power, you might be better off just keeping the Druid one, to be honest. The main thing you want to try and do with this deck is try and flood the board with as many minions as you can, and then use Savage Roar to kill everything off. So, having like the Shaman or the Paladin one means you can use your hero power to put more stuff out onto the board, which is pretty cool. Finley Mergleton, he's the only legendary, and you can't craft him, which is why the dust cost is so low. At 2 mana we have 2 Mark of the Wild, so now these is what makes stuff interesting. So you can put this on the Dragon Egg or the Argent Squire early game, and suddenly you've got a 3/3 Argent Squire with Taunt and Divine Shield, which is really cool because it makes it really sticky. Alternatively, you put it on the Dragon Egg, making that a 2/4 with Taunt, and then every time it takes damage it summons a 2/1 Whelp, which is also very cool. Also at 2 mana we have 2 Mark of Isage. I think that's how you say it. Is it Isage? Isage? I don't know. I mean, we say Isera, but she doesn't have the apostrophe. I don't know. I'm going to call it Isage. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. You've got 2 of these, so we give you a minion +2/+2, and if it's a beast, draw a card. There are quite a few beasts in this deck, but because it's Hearthstone, sometimes I find that you don't have beasts in your hand, but you do have Mark of Visage, which can be kind of annoying. And this is really the only kind of card draw that you get. You kind of want to play it on a beast just so you get the card draw, because if you don't, you're kind of missing out really. Because this is an aggro deck, you need that card draw. You have to have the card draw, otherwise you run out of cards really quickly. Also at 2 mana we have Power of the Wild. Choose 1, give your minions +1/+1, or summon a 3/2 Panther. So, if you don't have any minions on the board, or if maybe you've only got 1 or maybe 2 minions on the board, it might be better off summoning the 3/2 Panther, especially if you don't have any beasts, because then you can use Mark of the Wild, Mark of Visage on it to buff it up and draw a card. Another beast. At 2 mana, a Direwolf Alpha, giving adjacent minions +1 attack, which is very nice. Obviously, you want to play this on your turn when you have 2 beasts on the board already, so that they can attack. Always place things like this on the turn that you intend to attack. Also at 2 mana we have 2 Druid of the Saber, so you can choose 1, gain charge, so you have a 2/1 with charge, or a 1/1 and stealth. Now I always think that the 1/1 and stealth is better because you have a 3/2 with stealth for 2 mana, and I feel like that's a better value than the 2/1 with charge. So if you can buff it before you attack with the charge, then I think that's probably a good idea, but if not, then the stealth is probably the best way to go, because then it ensures that it stays alive for the next turn, and maybe you'll get something that will buff it the next turn. As I mentioned before, Savage Roar, we've got 2 of them. Even if you don't have that many minions on the board, if you've got 2 Savage Roar, it might make up for it. Savage Roar is still really good. You just require having a decent amount of minions on the board to be able to get full effect from it. At 3 mana, we have 2 Druid of the Flame. These are really good as well. So you can transform into a 5/2 minion or a 2/5 minion. Now, I generally go with the 2/5 just because it trades better with other things early game. Like most 2 or 3 cost minions, quite a lot of them have 2 health, and this will trade with at least 2 of them. Plus, if you do buff it up to a 2/5, you can always, because it's become a beast, so you can always buff it with the Mark of Visage, and then suddenly you've got a 4/7 beast, and you've drawn a card, and that is suddenly a lot more difficult for your opponent to get rid of, especially if you're against a priest. Giving it that extra 2 attack and giving it a total of 4 means it can't use stuff like Shadowed Pain or Shadowed Death, which is really useful. Also at 3 mana, we have 2 Mounted Raptors. I kind of like these because they're basically like the normal Bloodfen Raptor at 2 mana, a 2 mana 3/2, but because you get the summon a random cost 1 cost minion, it's an extra mana cost, but it makes it a bit more sticky, you see, because obviously you kill it and then something else comes and takes its place, and then they have to try and kill that as well if they want to keep the board clear. So I kind of like that, and obviously it's a beast, so you can buff it up again with Mark of Visage, making it a 5/4 and drawing a card, which is very nice indeed. At 4 mana, we have a Soul of the Forest. Now, we don't really see Soul of the Forest very often, but it can be quite useful in this deck. If you can get sort of 4 or 5 minions on the board, it's useful to have this on your minions, because by the time you get to sort of like 5 mana is when you're going to start seeing a lot of board clear AoE spells like Consecration, Holy Novas, Blizzards, Flame Strikes, you know, all of that kind of stuff. Blade Flurries. So having Soul of the Forest on your minions means that even if the ones that you've got on the board do die, you'll still have stuff on the board, and you know, it's unlikely that they're going to be able to cast 2 of those kind of spells on the same turn. Also at 4 mana, we have 2 swipes, because what would a Druid deck be without swipe? 4 damage and then 1 to 1 target, and then 1 damage to everything else. The main problem I've found is that people keep dropping taunts, and that is a bit of a problem for this deck, because there's no silences in this deck, so the only real kind of like removal you have is swipe. I mean, you got Living Roots that does 2 damage to something, but like as far as like big damage is concerned, swipe is like literally the only thing you have. Also at 4 mana, we have a Cult Master. We have 1 of these, and this is your other form of card draw. So if you do come up against taunts, then you might need to trade some stuff. It might be worth putting down the Cult Master first, so you can actually get some cards back as a result. Also at 4 mana, we have a Maya Keeper. Now normally in a Druid deck, I would say to use the Gain an Empty Mana Crystal when you play him, but because we're trying to flood the board as quickly as possible, it's probably better to go for the 2/2 Slime. The highest mana cost creature you have is the next one, which is 5 mana, so you don't really need the extra mana crystal. We have 2 Druid of the Claw, so you get to choose either a 4/4 charge or a 4/6 taunt. That is completely situational. Sometimes it's better to go with the charge, sometimes it's better to go with the taunt. If your opponent doesn't have anything on the board, or maybe you're just going for the kill, then it might be better to go with the charge, but that's completely situational and entirely up to you. But that is the deck. It's really good from what I've played so far. I think I've played about 10 games and maybe lost 3 in total, and 2 of those was just because I didn't get any card draw. I didn't get either of my Mark of Visage or the Cult Master. Oh no, I did get the Cult Master in my hand, but everything on the board was dead, so there's no point in playing it. Your starting hand, you kind of want to go for Living Roots, Argent Squire, Dragon Egg, Finley Murgleton. I mean, they're the 4 1-cost creatures. You kind of want them in your starting hand, at least one of them. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, you just kind of, as I say, you want to flood the board with as many creatures as you can, as quickly as you can, and then Savage Roar to take out your opponent. But that's the deck. That is the Legend Aggro Egg Druid, or the Aggro Druid as I've been calling it. If you play this deck, let me know how you get on. There will be a link in the description that will take you over to hearthstone.com so you can go and check out this deck for yourself. If you do enjoy playing it, then go and give it a thumbs up and tell him that he's done a good job in making this. GeorgiousHELLAS, I'm sure, will appreciate it. So thank you very much for watching. If you've got any suggestions for future decks, then feel free to leave a comment below, and I will see you next week for some more Big Deck Player. Thanks again. Bye bye.